Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anatomy of an Adaptation. This is a podcast that aims to compare and contrast classic novels with their cinematic adaptations. I'm your host, Nicolo Grasso, and I am joined today by the host of the Uncut Gems podcast and good buddy of mine, Jakub Flasz. How are you doing, Jakub? Have you read anything good recently?
Oh, I'm doing great, and I'm look. I feel like every time you're doing a Stephen King sort of thing, like I'm like your resident Stephen King fanboy.
You're the resident, yeah.
So
Well, what are you reading right now?
I am actually reading a Stephen King book because I'm closing some blind spots, and actually this is slightly fitting because I'm closing a Dead Zone in a way because I'm reading the Dead Zone,
Hey.
and that's actually phenomenal. This is a book that I've always wanted to catch up with, and I don't, for many reasons I didn't, but it was kind of one of those which just like sitting between, like, I don't know, Firestarter and The Stand, and I was just like, why didn't I ever get around to reading it? So that's what I'm reading now. What did I finish recently? Uh, Hold on, let me open my notebook because with my daughter and my wife we're doing like a winter reading challenge at home.
Oh, nice.
Um, but it's kind of like, so whoever reads the most pages, so it's not like about, so like my daughter was like, oh, I can game this, I can read short books. No, it doesn't matter. Like, we're counting pages, and books is a separate sort of extra challenge. Then we get, like, there's a book voucher at the end of it for someone. Oh, I finished reading The
Nice. That's a
Color of
nice
Magic,
incentive.
so I decided that I wanted to see what Terry Pratchett was about because I never like, I've always been like, I should get into Terry Pratchett. And,
Yeah.
and I read The Color of Magic, which is the first in the Discworld series, and it's not very good, and I wasn't liking it. It was like the longest 290 pages in my life, I think. And I was just saying, oh, and I already have like a stack of other books of it. I'm like, I should probably just get through them, but I don't want to. But yeah, so that was a bit of a disappointment. Also recently I read Mickey 7, which is the sort of the
Yeah.
basis for Mickey 17, the Bong Joon-ho film, and
Yeah.
that's actually kind of like, because it's clearly written by a guy who like teaches physics at a university level. But yeah,
I'm not surprised.
yeah, that was sort of medium rare sort of fan. It was okay, but yeah, like the Dead Zone, I'm just like, I don't know. I started reading this like 2-3 days ago. I'm like a third of the way in, like 200 pages, and this is, yeah, it reads like butter. This is fantastic. Like, yeah, you can always trust Steve when it comes to stuff like this. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm reading. Apologies for rambling.
Don't apologize. Don't apologize. That's why we're here today to rumble, and to run. I guess I don't know where I'm going with this. Because of course, like we've had a big Stephen King year this time around. We've had 4 adaptations total for feature films. We've had also 2 TV shows coming out. But
Hmm.
we didn't talk about the monkey. I don't think we'll ever talk about the monkey. It's like low on my priority of Stephen King adaptations. But we did have a very, very big one coming out. And so today it's a good time to just talk about a new release once again. It's nice sometimes to take a break from older classics and talk about what's coming out new in the cinemas. Because, of course, today we're talking about 1982's The Running Man by Richard Bachman, aka Stephen King, the 1987 Paul Michael Glaser directed Arnold Schwarzenegger starring vehicle, and the 2025 adaptation by Edgar Wright.
Once inside the zone, the runners have 3 hours. They've got to go through all 4 game plots. 3 hours or less, and they're going to need every second, because you know who's on their tail. Who? And you know what happens then? What? Right. Without further ado, it's time to start running!
Get set! Killian, I'll be back. Only in a rerun. Go!
Why don't you introduce Jakub, the Running Man? Of course, we've talked about Richard Bachman very recently when we focused on The Long Walk, a book that we both really enjoyed, a
Oh yes.
film that I quite enjoyed and you were a bit cold on. But
Almost came to blows.
You can hear like the silence on my end when you start like talking poorly about the movie. And I was like,
You're just like
oh
bearing it.
no, I didn't know this.
Just, Nicola was just politely just letting me vent.
That's what we're here for, though. That's why we're here. Um, but of course, what about The Running Man? What was your first time reading the book like? What was it like revisiting it for this podcast? If this was a reread, actually, I don't know if you've read it
No,
before.
this actually was one of the sort of Bachman books that had been in my blind spot. So I went through the
Hmm.
Bachman books that I've acquired some time ago, and while closing some of my blind spots, and that was one of them. So I read it the first time, like, well, I suppose like sometime this year. I skimmed it just for the show, just to kind of refresh myself on this. But I think I finished reading it this summer, so it's kind of like it was very fresh anyway for me. So I like, as far as the book goes, it's like I like it. It's a weird book though, and I think it also comes back to how it was written, because it's, and actually this is something okay, well, fair enough. On my side, and I'm gonna plug it because why not? Flashonfilm.com,
Please do.
flasonfilm.com. I go like one of my little pet projects is sort of going one by one through Stephen King stuff and just trying to write about how it kind of just interrogates and is in conversation with its adaptations, right? This sort of
Yeah.
so in preparation for this, I'm also working on a little essay, which I'm hoping by the time you guys listen to this, it should be out, so you can go in there and read what I have to say. It probably will be, I should say, a bit more structured regurgitation of what we're talking about today, anyway. But 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 in preparation for this and for the show, I was just thinking, I was trying to do some digging on when this thing was actually written, and then how, because like all I know is like there are some bits of trivia that I don't necessarily know how to place in time, but I think I can reasonably uh, confidently say that it was written in 1972. At least a draft of it was, when he was like snowed in for a week during a week on of like school holidays, because he wrote
He
this
just wrote
thing.
a full novel.
He wrote this thing in like under a month, and you can like, when you read it, you can kind of feel it. This thing was kind of, turbocharged that way. Uh, but then he couldn't. But and this is something that it's difficult to place, but because whenever the guys asked about it, he doesn't really say when certain things happen. So he made a few mentions in on writing and on becoming a brand name, on why I was Richard Bachman, and then a few other certain places, interviews, whatever. And he always gives the same answers, but it's kind of difficult to place when certain things happened, because he wrote it and then he tried to submit it for publication, I think as Stephen King, and he was rejected, saying, "Oh, we're not interested in negative utopias. Sorry, go away." And then he tried again, apparently, with a different publication house, which may have been in the 80s already, and they told them to go away. And I think he then, like we talked about it on the occasion of the long walk, he had a deal with, I think, National American Library or New American Library, something like this, NAL. And he just didn't. He plowed all of his unpublished works through as Richard Bachman to just give them some time to breathe, right? And that's kind of how it
Yeah.
came out. But I think it also faced some opposition, as in like, well, we don't like negative utopias, go away, right? Uh, so that's kind of how it came together, and like, and and when you read it, you kind of feel that this is, I think, I want to say, one of the angriest books he's written. it's very, it's very edgy. It's very edgy, and also there's another.
That's an understatement.
Oh yeah, but I like it. I like, because it's one of those that it's kind of difficult to almost imagine getting on board with a character like this. Ben Richards is very unlikable as a person. Um, so imagine giving this to like a, I don't know, Hollywood star, even like, we're gonna get to it, right? And then just say, try and a screenwriter, and try and, let's say, like, let's follow this person for 2 hours, right? Where he's obnoxious for the most part, right? So it's kind of hard. Um, but what I found interesting as well, is that this is, I mean, Okay, this is gonna be a roundabout sort of thing because I found it. This is what I find fascinating about this book because I like how kind of how its thematic sphere is kind of tied into all of it. And when you position this, oh, this is written during the Nixon presidency and Vietnam War, so it kind of sort of like the Long Walk, which is like a lot of this grime and edge and gloom. It's kind of there,
It's
you
very
know,
topical to the time.
very topical to that period of time. It's probably still very topical to the 80s, where like, well, I don't know, conservatives are are back in action, and I think Stephen King was never a conservative. So, but then what I find fascinating is that this book is very closely related to Robert Sheckley's The Price of Peril. I don't know if you've ever read. It's like a 6,000 word short story. It's literally a 35-minute sit down. Um, and this is something I found because the film The Running Man faced a lawsuit from the Robert Sheckley estate, saying like, you guys ripped off
Okay.
The Price of Peril, which was adapted to as a French film, Le Prix du Danger, um, something to that, The Price of Danger, um, which is like if you read the short story, it's essentially The Running Man, as in like there's a guy who's on a TV show and he has to survive for a week while people are hunting him down. That's it, and it's and it's very abridged because it's 6,000 words more or less, divided into sort of small. You can't even call them chapters. It's like scenes, right? Like
Hmm.
there's 6 or 7 of them. And then when I was first learning about this, I was thinking that Stephen King, when he was writing The Running Man, maybe he found inspiration in, because I also know that he's big on watching movies. He will always go to drive-ins. He will watch things in cinemas, and you can kind of feel it in his books as well. That he's very visual. And there's this film. I don't know if I may have mentioned this. There's this film called The Tenth Victim by Elio Petri. He's an Italian guy and the film is
Okay.
with
Sounds
Marcello
familiar.
Mastroianni, which I
Ah, yeah,
remember
yeah, yeah.
watching as a almost like an accidental watch because it was on movie years ago, right? So I was just like, let's watch this, and it's about this sort of dystopian world where there are these people. There's this TV show where there are people called hunters and people called victims, and you don't know who the hunter is, and you don't know, and but hunter knows who the victim is, and these people just chase each other around the world while cameras observe them from afar, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and it's based on a different Sheckley short story called The Seventh Victim. And the Seventh Victim and The Price of Peril kind of deal with a very similar premise, but they're not related to one another like at all. It's just I think Sheckley had a thing for TV shows and and game shows, right?
It
Um,
was very prominent on his mind.
yeah. So so I was thinking, was Stephen King like inspired by watching this Italian film, or maybe he just read some of Sheckley's short stories? But apparently, someone asked him in an interview, and he said, "I don't remember ever reading any Sheckley's books, but I may have. I don't know." He says. So you can't tell, but you can kind of see that there's a plane of symmetry between all of these people, and I find it fascinating. And this book kind of reads like when you actually become aware of Sheckley, how closely matched they are, but how certain changes are made. Because in the book, in Stephen King's book, the idea is that you become the like if you star in The Running Man, you become the enemy of the state. Like everyone's
Hmm.
supposed to record and report you, and so everyone's like every bystander, every person on the street is a potential enemy to you, right? If you're on the run, right? Meanwhile, in the Shackley short story, people like phone into the show with like advice for the running man, or like some people will just pitch in with like give him a gun or like I don't know a disguise because they want to be on TV, they want to phone in and whatever. So it's you can kind of, but this guy
Okay.
wrote he wrote that short story in like I want to say 1958, so pre Nixon. So it's kind of fun,
So
but
even
yeah,
TV was a very different landscape.
yeah. So long
But I guess
story
the
short,
core of it never really changed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like, just long story short, just bring it in, Jakub. It's it's the book. I'm fascinated by it, even though I think it's not his best of the Bachman books. It's not my favorite. I want to say I kind of like it marginally less than I want to say Roadwork. although they're kind of closely matched too. Because Roadwork is also a fascinating story, also angry. Like they're all like all of these Bachman books in the first
It's
four
his
ones
darker
are very
side in
angry.
terms of tone.
But yeah, I like it. I like it. It's a fun book, and you can kind of see how it was like it was downloaded from his sort of state of mind onto paper and just yeah maybe polished once or twice, so it's very raw and very angry and very um charged, I want to say. So yeah, I'm
Mm.
gonna leave it there. You tell me what is that your first time reading The Running Man or
It is. It is my first time. I want to say I've never read anything by Richard Bachman before this podcast, essentially. Both The Long Walk and The Running Man was a first time read, were a first time read. But the Running Man, I mean, I went into it only knowing about the Arnold version. We'll talk about it, of course, but that's what I was expecting originally. So when I started reading it, not only was I greeted by a very different protagonist
mm-hmm,
than what I had pictured in my mind, very different protagonist. But essentially, and this is like me from 2025 speaking, it feels like a John Wick type narrative where it's like one man's like the world against him. He has to survive a long day. It's something that's been done countless times, as you've mentioned over the
mm-hmm,
decades, told and retold and changed and reshaped, the most dangerous game and all those things. But the way King makes it, and you are spot on, like it's angry, it's brutal, it's dark. He's not afraid to go to some places that he normally wouldn't as king, or at
mm-hmm,
least not in such a stark and blunt way of approaching it. Everything related to Ben Richards, that was my first note related to the book. When I was reading it, I was like, I really don't like Richards. And you're not even supposed to like him in a way. He's the protagonist, but you're not supposed to be there like, yes, I love him. It's not even that he's a complicated character, he's just a byproduct of the world he's living in. A
mm-hmm,
world where every person who's under a certain threshold is just disposable and expendable, where you don't have money for basic needs, for medicines, for your children. It's dark. It's very very dark, and so even the relationship that he has with his wife is complicated. It's not the usual like loving relationship you would see in some of King's more usual works. Sometimes when he's establishing some marriages, or like there's the hope, there's the love, but in here everything just sucks, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, and I ended up. I think the only real problem I had with the book was the length. I did feel the pacing a bit sometimes. It's just kind of all over the place in certain areas. Some sections are really fast and quick. Other sections just like taking it way way slow. And other times it's just like jumping from location to location. It's much bigger in scope than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more ambitious, and I really really do like the ending. I think it's one of those books that, surprisingly for Stephen King, the closer it gets to the ending, the more it forges its own identity, kind of. And I really like the last third of this book,
Mm-hmm.
so I'll leave it at that for now. I don't know if you have any. I'm curious because you did mention like the we did both mention the historical setting
Mm-hmm.
of when King wrote it and this
Yeah.
utopic 2025
This dystopian
uh,
2025. I mean, when he wrote it in
dystopia.
like what
Yeah.
1972 probably, so he thinks like 50 years from now, it's a long enough time that he probably imagined he'd either be very old or very dead. So the world is yeah, no, like it's always it's always fun to see how like storytellers will play something that they think is distant future or
Mm-hmm.
distant enough future to give yourself some room to play with what the world looks like. And then this time arrives. And then you're like, no, like in Back to the Future Part 2, 2015, just distant future, 30 years from now or whatever. Cars are flying. I'm like, no, we're just about to elect a lot of far right people all over the world.
Which is very timely in the book, in a way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So like the entire like setting of the story, how it plays with I want to say Nixon's America, and I think also just I think he like the frame of mind this guy was when he was writing it is still kind of just like putting himself back together after essentially the 70s, and like and a lot of crises in the 70s in America, like the oil crisis and the Vietnam War, and there's just and essentially just constitutional crisis of the Nixon's presidency number two, right? It's uh, and at the same time you have like the rise of television and the overwhelming kind of sense of what is the world going to look like. I can't recognize the world that I grew up in, right? Where you see
Mm-hmm.
pictures from from like overseas sort of war uh trans trans transported to you in real time. You get to see people die on the other side of the globe, and this is fine. Or in 1972, you had, I think 72, you had the Munich massacre. You have plenty of, and you have like the entire decade of terror in the sky. It's just,
Yeah.
it almost felt, I think the 70s must have felt to a lot of people who were left leaning at the time, um, like the world was coming to an end. so so I think this kind of is channeled in this book, this sort of anger at how we're essentially just heading towards this kind of dystopia where the government lies to you about the radioactivity in the air, and then people just swallow it hook, line and sinker, because all they care about is these like stupid reality TV shows, which I think they were just about taking off as well. And then he was just saying like, what if we extrapolate that ad absurdum to and see what where it takes us. And that's kind of where this, I think this is where this book comes out of, that frame of mind of just
Mm-hmm.
being really pissed and really anxious. I think anxious, they'll be anxious about the future. That's the sort of anxious dystopia. I think that's kind of where I would put it, how I would define it. Yeah.
And in a way, it was not too far off. If you think of all the reality TV, I mean, we didn't ever go into like
We haven't
direct actual killing in a way in
like
reality TV
no yet.
yet. But the absurdity of it, the commercialization of violence and desensitization of violence just by showing it on TV constantly and turning it into entertainment. That is something that happened. Of course, like yeah, we can keep drawing it back to the Vietnam War, which is when he first started writing this. But even after, like if you think about the CNN effect and
Mm-hmm.
the nonstop bombardment of these images, you just become numb
Yeah,
after a while.
yeah, yeah.
And this is what you see on this population, you know, just like they don't really even register the violence that's happening around them in a way.
I mean, okay, if you wanna get kind of sort of quasi intellectual about it, you can see this as an interesting sort of like thematic counterpoint to something like, I don't know, George Orwell's 1984, right? Or
Yeah.
probably less so to something like Brave New World, or some of these like more let's just say tech enabled dystopias, right? But
Hmm.
when in 1984 the Big Brother would be kind of like the oppressive sort of sort of apparatus of surveillance, and you kind of see this sort of like people's lives are squashed, and they are aware of how squashed they are and how they can't open their mouths, and they are brainwashed into thinking a certain way. Meanwhile, in here you have the bread and games kind of distraction mode of autocracy, right? Where people don't even
Hmm.
know what's happening because they're too busy looking in the other direction, right? Even though they're like stratified against their income into subhumans and humans. Essentially, like you have some like a permanent underclass of people who are like who are so desperate that they will go on TV shows. Like, and it's not like the Running Man is the only one where people die. It's like I think people die on all of them, or something happens to them. But this is the one where it's essentially translating into one to one sort of violence, right? So yeah,
Hmm.
like like I suppose like the closest we'd have now is it like the Deadliest Catch. Like there are these sort of like um
Yeah.
there were these
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah. Yeah.
reality TV shows about bounty hunters, for instance, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
but
You're
yeah,
right.
but
You're
I
right.
see this as an interesting sort of counterpoint that way. That this sort of dystopia is kind of managed by um like in this sort of ancient Roman way of giving people games to look at. Give them gladiators to observe how they kill each other, so you can distract yourself from, I don't know, maybe the empire being close to ruin or something like this. You know?
Not having enough food to survive.
Yep.
All the good stuff, all the good stuff. Even I have to say, another element that surprised me a lot was the anger towards the US government.
Oh, I'm not
There's a bunch
surprised at
of
all.
passage. Well, I mean, this is also in conversation with The Long Walk, in a way. It feels
Hmm.
like it's set in the same universe, just decades apart,
It's just
right?
a different show.
It's just a different show. Because I think even in The Long Walk, they were like, I don't remember if this was something in the film exclusively or even in the book, but I think they were televising it for sure in the film, maybe even in the book that was part of it. But there were like crowds of people witnessing it in real time and like cheering on the side for various runners, or like walkers in that case. And it's it's so pissed off at the way it is being used as this veil on people's eyes to hide what's truly going on, how they're being suppressed and censored and controlled to the
Hmm.
extreme. And the way he writes it, it's so fun. I think that's when King's writing really pops in here,
Hmm.
when he's talking about those things, when he's poking fun at the government, but also just like destroying it in a way, because he can get away with so many things because he's not talking about the present, he's talking about the future, he's talking about 2025,
But like
but
whenever
what he's
writers
really
engage
talking
in,
about.
yeah, whenever writers engage in like dystopic future conversations, like that they're describing the world they live in, but they're blowing it out of
Hmm.
proportion. Like this, it's not, or the word that they fear the world they live in is going to turn into. So it's not
Any
like
reference
divorced
is
from
purely
reality. It's not fake,
coincidental.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. um which kind of wants, like, I in general, I have to say I do like the journey that Richards goes through. you know There's the initial escape, he's stuck in the hotel, the attack on the hotel, the police dies, he runs away, meets up with the friend, like the resistance. It becomes he unwillingly becomes a symbol of resistance, despite not really caring or knowing about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's just trying to survive, and he's turned into something he doesn't really care about, in a way. He's easily manipulated, even, I would say, because the way he just like turns and switches, where he's like, I'm gonna start saying like pro-revolutionary propaganda, and they change it up in post-production and
Mm-hmm.
when they run the tapes in the show, which also is such a fun element to. I like that, the way he has to like record himself, but since this was written in the 70s and early 80s, it's like, yeah, you
Just
need
to
a
mail
cassette
it.
tape, you need to video yourself and mail it.
Yeah.
That's fun. um but yeah, like that whole journey goes through, and there's the crazy old lady, and there's the woman he kidnaps, he
Mm-hmm.
abducts to get him into the airport. Like, I don't know, it's a bit uneven, as I said, but it kind of works in the way you just like, whenever you read that Stephen King book, you just have to be along for the ride. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to get too lost into like, is the structure okay, is the pay, just like, no, just
What
trust him, just
structure?
just
Like the guy famously doesn't plan, right? He will just sit
exactly, yeah.
down and just let it happen, and then whatever structure just comes out naturally out of what's happening. That's the structure you get.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much, pretty much. But it all leads to the ending of the book, which I
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about before we actually go into the two films.
Yep.
The ending, I mean, for 1982, it's okay. It's bold. It ends with Richards essentially kamikazing on the TV tower of the network,
Yep.
um, and blowing it all, like burning it to the ground, blowing it up to pieces. It's the last thing he can do because he's mortally wounded. He finds out his family, the only people he was really fighting for, really trying to survive for, are dead because
Mm-hmm.
of an accident. Maybe it
Wow.
was
Can you
throughout
trust
of.
them, right? Did
Can you
Killian
trust?
have
Yes, can
them
you trust the
whacked
network?
immediately so that because
It's
like it.
it's That's a twist that got to me. I'll be honest. I did not see that coming. Like reading the book, it's like I don't know. Like I just took it for granted. Like we don't really care about the family. They're just like somewhere doing whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we get to this final act, and he's on the plane, he's having the conversation with the head of the network, and he's just like, "Well, they're dead, man. Like
Yeah,
those druggies found them, and just like they wanted vengeance or whatever, and just they killed them, and yeah."
like
So
this
you
is
have to
kind of
be part of us now, and you have to become a new
new
headhunter.
chief hunter, whatever. New Macone, right? Is it
Yeah.
Evan Macone? That was his name. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, do you know what? Like the ending is kind of like an interesting culmination of his journey as a character, which kind of just also lets you know that even when the guy just like shoots from the hip as a writer, he still produces an arc. As in, you can still see that he writes characters that actually live in his head, and he lets them live and lets them go where they need to go. Because the guy starts as the sort of selfish, in this sort of I think selfish pursuit of martyrdom, because he's let's just say motivated by frustration and anger, because like we haven't mentioned this, like his like the reason he signs up to these things is because he can't find a job, and then and his like 2-year-old kid is dying of flu, right? So
He
totally
doesn't have
totally
enough money
curable,
for
right?
that.
He doesn't have money
Hmm.
to get his little child um the medication for flu, some antivirals and some, I don't know what he can't afford, but this is how desperate he gets, right? So he gets there, and then the assumption is that he doesn't even think he's gonna win it. Because the idea is like you stay alive, for each hour you stay alive you get $100, and then you get some bonuses if you survive a day. Then this you get some extra if you kill someone. You get some extra, and at the end of it, it all tallies up to $1 billion, as in like a sum of money that's big enough that it honestly doesn't matter, you know. Um, but he doesn't enter this program thinking that he's going to win $1 billion. All he wants to do is survive for long enough so that his wife and kid would be able to live a comfortable life and leave the slum. That's all he
Hmm.
wants. So he thinks like I think he just, if I remember, like at some point he just like does this calculation in his head. He goes like, I need to like survive for like a week and a bit, and I'll be good, and that's enough,
Yeah.
right? And as you say, like as he goes through this, and it's not like he meets a friend. He meets like it's a chance encounter with some kid whose brother is in a gang, and this guy is like really switched on socially, right? And he just understands that there's something happening in here, and he understands that actually he has a voice because he has this thing that he needs to record,
Hmm.
and he becomes like, I think, partially unwittingly, but also consciously, he becomes a symbol. Like he becomes some kind of a symbol of an oncoming revolution, and then he realizes that actually the way to have this revolution work, he would have to martyr himself,
Send a strong
make a
message.
symbolic sacrifice, and just fly into actually just like try and make this movie that way now. Fly himself into a building in a post 9/11 America. It's a very stirring image. But
We'll get there.
we'll get there in a second, right? But that's kind of what and I think this end, especially when in the book you don't ever hear much about the hunters. They're kind of very elusive characters. You don't even see them very much, and the one time you see them is that you see this guy Macone at the airport in
He's the only
Derry.
one. Yeah.
Fun fact, by the way, they stage an airport in Derry, a fictional town in Maine that Stephen King invented, and then he put this in a Richard Bachman books. And apparently, after the Running Man was published, people started asking him, like, "Look, I know you're saying you're not Bachman, but you're Bachman. Okay, we're figuring it out now. Like
He wasn't even
this like,
trying, honestly.
you're
Like,
not
come
even trying
on.
to hide this anymore." And he goes like, "I don't know what you guys are talking about. This is stupid." But you see that there's this confrontation with this, like these elusive guys becomes almost like a confront. Like I don't know, when you read the book, I see the guy Macon is almost like a Gestapo officer. Like he's kind of written like a Nazi. Like
Very strict, like dressed in a proper way. The way even he speaks is
yeah,
very. militarized, very uh, borderline brainwashed, but like aware of how the system is corrupt
Yeah,
and that he's part of a corrupt system, and there's nothing he can do about it.
yeah. In my head,
He
he
just
speaks with a
he
German
follows
accent. I kid you
orders.
not.
He's Macron though. Should be
uh,
like a Scottish accent.
Scottish German, same difference, but but you know, I kind of see this of the ending as a very cool, very angry, very anxious culmination of like if you think about it, an intricate journey for this character to not necessarily like become less angry, but to channel his anger in like there's a difference between thrashing against the sort of the walls of your enclosure and then
Hmm.
making a strategic leap at the hinges in the door and hopefully if you're gonna blow like blow your brains out as you do it, at least you can show other caged animals somewhere with you that it's possible to escape, you know, that kind of sacrifice he's making. And I find it quite interesting, and I think again, in a world that loves happy endings, staging a very edgy ending, it can elicit one of two reactions. Either it's like, oh, such an edge lord, you know, and it's fine if you don't vibe with this, it's fine. But I think this is something that like I think it earns that edgy ending in a way. I don't know about you, but I kind of like the idea of this being a very like downbeat ending.
There's no way. I think it clicked for me after the escape from the hotel. Where all the cops are killed in the explosion. Um, I thought there's no way this is gonna have a satisfying, wholesome ending.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get to the airplane, I was like, yeah, like there's no way. There's literally no way this can go any other way. And even the fact that he's like mortally wounded and all the details about the blood's guts spilling out, like he's
Oh,
starting
and
to lose
oh,
consciousness.
great
He loves a
descriptions.
gut shot.
Oh, and
Damn.
just like holding these like ribbons of his intestines. I'm like, eating this.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Very,
It's
very
nasty.
graphic, very nasty.
But it works and it felt earned. That's the best thing I can say about the ending. It was earned.
Hmm.
And I'm glad we are both on the same page about this. So I'm curious how we will feel about the first of the adaptations, which honestly we don't even have to talk about for that long because there's so little that's actually tied to the actual book. But of course, in 1987 we got, directed by Paul Michael Glaser, The Running Man, starring everyone's favorite, or at least our favorite, man, Arnold Schwarzenegger, as well as Richard Dawson, Maria Conchita Alonso, Yaphet Kotto, Jim Brown, and Jesse Ventura.
That's a
I can
second
go
of
very
that's
quick.
one of two Jesse Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger features in the same year because they were together in Predator, weren't they?
Indeed, they were. Indeed, they were.
It's just
And
Captain
I will go very
Freedom.
quickly with this because I watched this film, I want to say like 5 or 6 years ago when I was going through my, like, I want to finish all of Arnie's films. Like, I love the guy, I want to 100% him. And back then, I enjoyed it. Of course, I knew nothing about the book. I barely even registered it was like an
You don't
adaptation
have
of a
to
Stephen
really.
King novel. You really don't. And revisiting it now after reading the book was very, very funny because um, we can talk. I mean, we're not even gonna get lost into like all the little differences. Like, those are basically two almost completely different stories. It just involve, you know, dystopic future. There's a resistance fighting a corrupt government, and there's a deadly game show called The Running Man,
Well,
where
there's a character called Ben Richards and a character called Dan
just,
Killian. That's it.
and that's it. Um, and of course, like, there is a character called Ben Richards. Ben Richards, everyday man, like blue collar worker, played by Arnold,
He's not a
who
blue collar
is
worker. He's a
not.
sophisticated police pilot, helicopter pilot.
Yes, yes. I love the opening scene of this film because everything we talked about Richards in the book, and it's like it's hard to love. It's not a great character. Like, he's not humanly a great person that you like to get behind, especially early on. The opening scene of the film, The Running Man, is, hey, Ben Richards, kill 1,500 innocent women and
The hell
children.
with
He's like,
you.
no, I'm not gonna do it. Fuck you. And they're like, yeah, you go, Arnold. Don't kill the innocent women and children. And he's just like establishing he's a great guy, single man. He doesn't have wife and children to bother him. He's just, doing what's right. He's different. He's better than others. It's just,
Yeah.
it's so silly. It's so silly. And it tells you everything about the rest of the film that goes into these flamboyant directions with very 80s clothing choices.
The Adidas
Basically a Mortal
onesies. I want an
Com
Adidas onesie, you
Adidas
know?
onesies.
Do you
Yes,
notice they have
yes.
an Adidas logo on their shoulder?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not very well hidden. Um, and also the cast of characters, especially when they go participate in the Running Man, is essentially like a video game roster of like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter figures. You have the castrato opera singer. You have the guy with the rollerblades. You have this, you have that. It's just, I like this film
I
for
think they
what
were,
it
by the way,
is.
American Gladiators. I think this was popular at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
I think this is kind
true,
of,
true.
like Mortal Kombat is kind of sort of like inspired by that in many ways, right?
And it came out later. You're right. And even WWE, like wrestling,
I think
those
like
types
the
of things. The
Doctor whatever, like
narratives.
Sub Zero or whoever, he was an actual wrestler.
I'm not surprised.
Like
Not
yeah,
surprised.
the connection between this and American Gladiators and WWE is palpable. This is real. We're not making this up. This is it.
No, 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 no. I mean, I think everyone can figure it out by watching the film. It's hard not to see it, which is why it's so fun. I will say, like my honest review is just it's a fun film. It does exactly what it should. It's an Arnold vehicle. It's not an proper adaptation of the book. It has some of the elements. It's like we're fighting the government, media manipulation, and messages to the people. They're being brainwashed, and we need to tell them the truth of what's really going on, but it's done in such a hokey way, just like so simple and simplistic and banal. But it's fun. It's
It's
fun.
like if V
I
for
can't fault
Vendetta
the
was
film for
fun.
that.
That's it. That's kind of where it is.
That's not too far off. How do you feel about the
Uh,
Running Man as a big Arnold fan as well?
Look, I think you may have missed out on this because I think we're trying to kind of get you like those was a year ago, 2 years ago. We did like a bunch of Arnold movies
On
from
Uncut
the 80s that
Gems.
on Uncut Gems. So there's an entire episode on the Running Man. I think there was only myself and Randy where we were trying to litigate this movie, um, and that was during a month where we spoke about all of Arnie. No, I think all of the movies we talked about were Arnold vehicles from the 80s, starting with the letter R, and all of which were bombs. So there's like four of them. There's Red Heat, there's the Running Man, there's Raw Deal, and there's one that I now is that now escapes me. Red Sonja, there it is.
Oh God. Oh, Red Sonja. Oh no.
So we kind of spent a month talking about these sort of movies that were more missed than hit, and I like look. This is a bad movie that I like, and this is kind of like the most honest review I could give you of this because I could tell you I could sing you praises of like oh how I love this movie and you watch this and you're like what the hell is he talking about, like it's stupid. I mean no, it's a bad movie I like. It's a bad movie a movie I grew up watching. It's a bad movie that I liked when I was too young to be watching it because it's very violent. And
It's
that's
very violent. Yeah.
one of the sort of movies I remember we had on VHS, and I would just be secretly watching it when no one was at home, because and it was yeah it was phenomenal. It's so cheesy. There's so much cheese in it that if you have like lactose intolerance and watch this movie, you will shit yourself while watching. Okay, there's so much cheese in this, and it all
All the
goes.
one-liners here
It's
are
look this.
just so weirdly paced and forced in, and I
Oh
love it.
yeah, but like if you read a little bit about how this movie came together, you kind of start understanding why it looks the way it does. Because like it originally was supposed to be directed by George P. Cosmatos, um, who like for those who don't know, he did like Rambo 2, and it was
Cobra.
supposed to have Christopher Reeve. And this was actually like when you read about what it was supposed to look like, it was supposed to be kind of sort of like The Running Man, as in like Christopher Reeve plays this guy, I suppose. how much of an everyman can Superman be? You know what I mean? But although
But
actually,
they make it work. Yeah.
he didn't have that much of a physique though. Like I think he was very athletic and tall, but I think in terms of like muscle mass, he was nowhere near like Arnold. You can't hide him in a crowd, you know. Um, but with Christopher Reeve, it was supposed to be more close to the book, and then they nixed it and they hired Andrew Davis and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Andrew Davis actually shot some of it. And I think some of the Andrew Davis directed shots are still in the finished product. Although I think he doesn't have a he got fired because he wasn't seeing eye to eye with producers, and it was the production was essentially, and I think Arnold liked what Andrew Davis was doing, but Arnold was essentially calling the shots. And I think, but then producers were like, we need more puns, we need more one-liners, because at that point in 1987, like Arnold was a brand,
Yep.
and
Yep.
they essentially just fired Andrew Davis and hired this guy Paul Michael Glazer. Who is this guy? I don't know. Some guy exactly. He like a guy with who will just do as he's told, and that's what he did. And Steve D'Souza, who did the script, who
Yep.
like wrote a bunch of movies that Arnold starred in. And actually, Steve D'Souza was one of the few guys who understood how Arnold operates. As in, like he would be he would be someone who would like write a line in the script and say like, Arnold, come and say this line, and he would not give him a line that he would not pronounce. Like I don't know if you watch Raw Deal, and it's like, you molested, murdered, and mutilated her. Like wouldn't give him a line like this,
It
right?
just rolls off the tongue.
He would, so they would, and he rewrote this script, I think, as they were shooting. I want to say 20 times, maybe 15 times, and you can see that this movie is a
Yes.
mess. It's a mess, right? It's a mess, and it has all the things like watch Commando, watch the Terminator, watch Conan, watch all of the films that Arnold did beforehand, and this is kind of like a greatest hits compilation. Like distill all the brand things. The fucker carries a log, like in Commando. He has "I'll be back." He has like every single time he does something, he will finish with a quip. Where's
Hmm.
where's Buzzsaw? He had to split. You know, what a hothead. Hey,
One that I still
Christmas tree.
don't like.
Hey,
Here's Sub-Zero. Now
Plain
Plain Zero.
Yeah. So I see this as this, like, if you try to take this film seriously, you're failing. This is
Yes.
a movie that you have to kind of take as camp cheese sort of festival of quips and one-liners. That's supposed to be funny, and actually it kind of preserves some of that satire that it's in the book, although it turns it into, it's more closer to, I want to say, They Live and Escape from New York in terms of how it handles its dystopia. It's purely visual. It's like a Michael Jackson sort of sort of music video set, people in rags and barrels with like shit on fire in them. So, and and actually like a lot of choreography. It's Paula Abdul, and it's all very like, it's like a MTV dystopia, this
Yeah.
this whole thing. It makes zero sense. Like you can poke holes through it, like without like a child, a 5-year-old child would poke holes through this, through the logic of this film. And and it kind of sort of works, even though it doesn't, because it's just fun to watch. There's action, there's violence, and there's some kind of fun that, like, if you're a bit older, you can kind of get, where you have like Captain Freedom's workout videos, these other games, climbing for dollars, or
Hmm.
whatever,
Hmm.
like that kind of nonsense. Or like whenever this like old lady says, "This guy is a mean motherfucker," or something like this, and they guess correctly. They bet on whatever sorry, they're not hunters in here. They're stalkers, right? Um, they get like a board game version of this game.
Yeah, there's all the gifts whenever you're
They,
selected.
they get gifts, and it's just, and I think, but these things are kind of sort of like almost taken out of the Sheckley story, and I think this may have something to do with how this movie, not the book, was targeted for
Accused.
litigation.
Mm.
or maybe it's easier to extract money, like get a sizable settlement out of a Hollywood studio rather than a shithole rock star writer on cocaine. I think there's more money in Hollywood than it is in Stephen King's house. so
Probably yes.
I would say that may have been a part of it. But I look again. Long story short, I like the film, but I fully understand that I'm not supposed to recommend it to anyone because like Arnold is like
then
my big childhood hero as well. So it's like I can't take him
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
everything I watch with him. It's just a nostalgia trip for me. So yeah, and like the onesies and everything. And Maria Conchita Alonso, like if you realistically, she could re-go. Like she's like, what's her face in in Temple of Doom? Jesus, what's her name? Steven Spielberg's
Oh,
wife.
yeah, yeah,
Christ,
yeah, yeah.
Jesus,
I'm blanking on the name as well.
not Kim
The
Cattrall.
research department. Kate
Christ, was
Capshaw.
Kate Capshaw. Thank you. Holy shit, she's so annoying in that film. And Maria Conchita Alonso in here is just as annoying, if not more. Only there's less of her.
Which is a
So,
shame. I think she was done dirty by Hollywood because I do really like her generally speaking. I think she
oh
had
yeah,
good
yeah.
presence. But yeah, in here, sure. Like I mean, she has to represent. She's kind of like what's the name of the character in the book? She's kind of like the Amelia Williams character. You
Mm-hmm.
know, she's so brainwashed that she's like, no, you're a terrorist. I saw the news. I know who you are. And then slowly she starts to see the cracks in the system and changes. And there's a maybe kind of super light romantic angle because you need to have that in the movie. It's like very formulaic
Mm-hmm.
in that sense.
Well, it
And
doesn't like
because of
we
that,
need
it
to have a
also
female
works.
interest. We need to have a love
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
pleasure.
yeah. They don't even need to kiss. It's just like,
There needs to be a woman.
romance, I guess. There
Yep.
is to be a woman. Um, but to bring it back to like the show, which is primarily about adaptations, very briefly, do you think this captures the book in any
No.
way? I think like shallow, in a very shallow sense, kind of with the themes of it, right? Because it's like, well, like those are the same things that happen in both versions. In
I
both versions, you have the government and the corruption and the TV and the media and blah blah blah. But it's so diluted that
hmm
it feels generic in a way.
I would say that there's like remember like in the 80s, having based on a novel by Stephen King carries weight, you know?
Yeah.
And and this book I want to say like lies in this twilight zone because it's at the time when they were making the film, the cat was out of the bag. This was a Stephen King book, right? Although technically, I think in the opening credits it says based on on a novel by Richard
I
Bachman.
think it does, yeah. I think it's Richard Bachman here.
But it's still at that point this was already in the news and people well aware this was news that they that it was like, oh, this guy is had a pen name, right? And because he was a massive rock star, this guy, right? King, that is. And so so it's in this twilight zone of like, you wouldn't do that to The Shining, you wouldn't do that to Carrie, you wouldn't turn this
Hmm.
into like you wouldn't turn Carrie into an Arnold Schwarzenegger action film, although I see a universe in which it's possible. you know
Mike Flanagan adaptation.
like when Carrie is Carl, and he's a guy who's like now 72 years old and he's in school. But you know what I mean, right? There's a universe in which you could turn this, but no one actually dared. But would the changes they would make to his short stories were just astounding. Case in point, the Lawnmower Man. They only like essentially if you see the Lawnmower Man, the film, which is still has the adapted by from a novel by based on a story by Stephen King, and even on like the DVD covers it had it, like the fucker had like sued the studio and had it and had them pay him because what they adapted was the title,
And
because
everything
everything
else
else in
is
the
a
book is
completely different story.
it's just different. The only thing they kept, there's this like a character who's in the original story and he's a side character and he's an obnoxious guy and he gets killed by a lawnmower. That's it. And that's what happens in the short story. There's a guy who orders a lawn mowing service, and there's like a folk horror pan who starts mowing the lawn in the nude, and then he kills him with a lawnmower. That's it. That's the story, right? and
Yep, yep, yep.
so so this lies in this twilight zone, as in like it's a longer piece of fiction, but it's not technically like, oh, this is a Stephen King book that you need to respect, you know. So they felt like we can do whatever the hell we want with it, and in the course of like 15 rewrites and these executive changes of more puns here, less this, more that, change this, change that. Arnold's not an everyman. Turn this into something else. Make him a pilot. Give him a lady. That kind of shit. All of a sudden, like you lose track of where the book was, and I think it's fair to say that it's so detached from the book that it's actually closer as an adaptation of the Robert Sheckley's short story, which whose estate sued the production, because that's you know there's no edge to this. There's very little um like there's no atmosphere that the book has. It's essentially Arnold's greatest hits, dressed just draped over the Robert Sheckley's short story The Price of Peril, which let's just say slightly morphed to adopt some names taken out of the Richard Bachman book, which I want to say probably also was inspired by this short story. So short answer, as adaptations go, this isn't one.
I honestly have very little to add about that because you're spot on. It's fascinating, for sure. It's a curio. I think people should watch it just because it's fun. It's short as well. It's like 1 hour 40 minutes with credits. Like, come on, you can do much, much, much worse with even Arnold films at the time. I wouldn't put it among my favorites. Maybe not even my top 10 of the 80s, to be honest. But still a good time. Still
Mm-hmm.
enjoyable. Still moves along. It has some impressive effects. I
Oh
think
yeah,
I the
CGI in there. So the face replacement.
and the headshot in the opening with
Uh huh.
the at explosion, sorry, during the opening
Yes.
sequence, the escape
Yes.
sequence is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Leaves a mark. Um, yeah, I just wish I cared more about the characters in a way. There's like especially the two side ones, Yaphet Kotto and the other one,
Exactly.
who are like right, the geek, the nerd, the computer expert, the guy
Yeah.
who's trying to fix the perimeter. He's obsessed with the perimeter, and there's the detonators. We have to disable them.
It's a hexadecimal password system.
It's just like in jargon nonsense of the 80s trying to pretend it's what the future will look like and sound like. But it's harmless. I think that's ultimately what I will say about this film. It's harmless. However, we did get over 40, almost 40 years later, a proper adaptation
Boy,
of
did
The
we.
Running Man. And apparently, even the good Arnold himself said, of all the movies I made, this is what I wanted to be remade properly. Which
Mm-hmm.
sounds wrong, but maybe it's like, yeah, sure, I'll say this.
I
Someone
think he
told him it's like the
understood that
right answer.
he understood that as they were making this the production of The Running Man in 1980 between 1985 and 87 was a mess.
And not like the book at all.
No, no.
Um, but cut to present days, and we got a faithful adaptation made by none other than Edgar Wright, everyone's favorite director of the Cornetto trilogy, of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, Baby Driver. More recently, he made Last Night in Soho, and now he's back after a 4 year break, essentially. Running Man, starring Glenn Powell as Ben Richards. You also have Josh Brolin as Dan Killian, the head of the network, Coleman Domingos, Bobby Thompson, the MC of the TV show, and also like Lee Pace, William H Macy, Michael Cera, Kathy O'Brien. It's a Carl Glusman. It's a cast. It's
Mhm.
recognizable names. It's big. It's bold. And I went to watch this movie in a cinema that was almost completely empty on a Friday night. And
Wow.
that's when I was afraid. I was very scared. I went in and I thought, oh, I'm in the wrong cinema. And it's like, oh, why are
No.
people not showing up? Interesting. I had barely read reviews before going in because I did not want to be influenced by them. Good lord, I did not like this film. I really did not like this film. It's probably one of the worst cinematic experiences I've had all year.
Oh Jesus,
By the simple fact that
that's powerful.
I felt like I was disassociating while watching it. It did not feel good. It's like I am seeing images on the screen, I am registering them, and they're not giving me anything. I mean, in some cases, they gave me whiplash. There's a sequence early in the film where they're going through the training to like choose which shows they're gonna have to end up on,
Hmm.
which is edited and shot in such a confusing way. Where it was like they're in, it's taking place in one day, I think they say, or something like that,
Hmm.
or a couple of days. I don't know, but it's like they are in obstacle courses. Okay, they are scaling buildings, like places. Like, okay, where are they doing this? And it's like, oh, they're like on an oil rig. I don't know what's happening. It's like in the middle of the water. It's like, are they imagining this? Is this what that's supposed to be like? Is this really happening? Because then they're seeing the results on the show. It's like the TV show screens. It's like, oh yeah, no, this did really happen. I don't know. It just. And the last thing I will say before letting you talk about this, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. It did not feel like an Edgar Wright film. Because on paper, Edgar Wright directs The Running Man. Having read the book, I was like, okay, I can kind of see that. You know, it's gonna be probably a bit lighter in tone, which is fine. But you know, it's like fast pacing. You make it nice. You make it cool. You know the whip pans and the transitions, like clever uses of the camera and everything. And if you told me, no, 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 this was Ghost directed by David Leitch, I'd believe you. If you told me this was the feature debut of a Hollywood stuntman, I'd believe you. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I can see that. It's a film that's lacking in personality, despite incessantly beating you over the head with its messaging, with what it's trying to say, with how it's trying to say it. And I was left very disappointed. What was it like for you, Jakub?
I want to say similar. um,
Which
Look,
sucks. Like I don't like being here with you, being like, yeah, The Running Man by Edgar Wright is not
it's
good.
not good. I mean, for me, the realization kind of sort of like it kind of set in a little bit later. Like I didn't have an out of body experience as I was watching it. Uh, so I was watching it and I had this sort of weird feeling that something's not right, and then as I left the cinema, it's just things started clicking into place, and you just go get home and just think this made no sense whatsoever. This thing, this, and I was trying to articulate to myself why that is. What's wrong in here? What's wrong with this picture? You look at a perfectly ordinary like painting, and then you realize, oh, something's wrong. Like the trees in the background are upside down or something like this. Something's wrong, you know? Um, because like the biggest, how you were just trying to figure out what the hell's going on in these sort of like training sequences. I think I eventually clued in that this is supposed to mean to the character that there are certain things that he's meant to do and be because he has done this before. It's like, oh, he's good at this because he has climbed something. He has worked on an oil rig. He was just like fired from everywhere, right? So it's almost like an
Sure.
acknowledgement of like this is what he's supposed to do because he has always had these skills to be to win the Running Man, or whatever, right? But like there's something wrong. Like there's many things that are wrong in here because I feel like maybe not to the extent, maybe even to the extent as the Running Man in 1987 one. It feels like it's when it comes to screenwriting, or maybe just work with actors. There's very little cohesion of thought and tone. This movie is very tonally just jarring. It's tonally at odds with itself. Like Michael Cera's character is a joke, right? And I think a lot of people are
Yes.
jokes. Like his mother, this character who's in the book, the sort of the tattletale who calls the cops, and I think in the book it's kind of, I want to say, one of the sort of stock king characters, as in Bible thumping old lady who's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know,
In Maine,
who's
or
like
like close to
crazy, like
Maine.
a, you know, like she's just absolutely out of her wits. She's just off her rocker totally, right? Fine, right? And here she's almost a caricature of that kind of stock character.
Almost.
Yeah, yes, she is a caricature of that.
She's
Like
a cartoon character. She's
like
straight
Michael
up like
Cera has a PowerPoint presentation just ready to go, right? And I
yes.
feel like, okay, and this is where I have, it's not I kind of sort of have a problem, because for the most part the movie's trying to set itself, like, well, try to be serious about itself while also operating within a highly heightened sort of dystopia, because it's not, yeah, it's not Children of Men dystopia. It's, you know, it's more of a, yeah, like, when you say this is kind of like ghost directed by David Leitch, I kind of get it. This is the sort of the John Wick type of dystopia. Like, this is supposed to be more cartoony than real, right? However, this is where,
Also, I want to say it's shot worse than most David Leitch films.
oh
Like the
yes,
action here is
the
bland.
I have no idea what's happening where. There's very little sense of geography to many things,
Hmm.
and it
The
almost
whole
feel,
house attack that you mentioned with Michael Cera is like, okay, oh, they're going left, they're going right. It's like this should be very clear how they're moving into space and where the people are,
the escape
and
from
it just
the,
feels
well,
like
the hotel or the
consequential.
YMCA is very, is very odd in terms of what happens where and to whom. Um, but the main problem I have is, I think I understand this, of at least the initial conditions of trying to be more faithful to the book, which is setting up Glenn Powell as a as an angry character, and if anyone has ever seen Glenn Powell, like, he is the antithesis of a character that you're supposed to see as unlikable. He just, when he
Hmm.
smiles, like, you know, it's kind of
Yeah,
hard.
yeah, yeah.
But he's really angry, and then as a result of that, when he's trying to be angry, he comes across as insincere. And the movie itself,
He pulls off like a Nicolas Cage face, right? There are some parts where he was like, it
yeah,
almost felt like a face-off type of
yeah,
character.
yes, exactly. But it doesn't feel like it's like the movie wants you to be on the joke, in on the joke
Hmm.
with this whole thing. It kind of feels like there's a conflict of interests in here. Like, some people are trying to push this movie into more light-hearted comedic direction, and some people want to be more serious action, and then some people say, you know, if you make it look like Bullet Train, this will sell tickets. You know, and as a result, you kind of have a mess. But but in contrast to something like the 1987 The Running Man, it's like, it's not a cheesy mess. It's just a mess. It's something that it doesn't have the sort of the pull factor. I suppose the pull factor of Arnold, who you just see as a brand, is just saying, this is just cool to see a guy doing stupid shit. In here, it's just, it's actually honestly quite tiring as well, because it's quite long, and they
It's
make
over two
changes to the
hours, yeah.
narrative as well. And still, again, like, they try to be faithful to the book, and they still fuck it up towards the end. It's kind of like The Long Walk, you know, where they're just like, no, no, we can be faithful for like 95% of the time, and we'll still mess with the ending just because.
We
But
can
yeah,
talk
I don't.
about the ending. I think we can just jump into that actually,
Sure,
because
but yeah,
without
like, I don't like
spoiling
it.
the
I don't
long.
like the film, like, at all.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get it. I get it. I feel you. Without spoiling the ending of The Walking, I
The
was gonna say
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead, of The Long Walk, um, because in case people haven't seen
They
it,
are kind of like
they
The
should
Walking
watch it.
Dead,
They should read it. Um, I
literally.
did really like the ending of The Long Walk. I know you weren't a fan of the changes that they made in the film. Um, But I think it's one of those things where it makes sense, also to be surprising in a way for fans of the book, but also, it captures the soul. It's something I would say even of like we talked about it in the Frankenstein episode with the Guillermo del Toro adaptation. Like it captures the soul of the book while also bringing new things to the table in a much smaller scale, of course, in the Long Walk. But I liked it. Going into The Running Man by Edgar Wright. I mean, you mentioned this as well before. Like, there's no way they were going to go with the original ending of Ben Richards
Just flies
kamikazing
into the
on this
massive tower.
gigantic tower. A tower that's like populated by the audience that's watching the show and all of that. Um, but the way in my head, reading the book, I knew it was like they're gonna go for the stupidest possible Hollywood ending, and they did. They wanted their cake and eat it as well, and they vomited all over the place as a result. It's essentially they tease the possibility that he's gonna go and crash into the towers, doesn't actually do it. They have a fake out ending, which is kind of cute, I guess. They have the revolutionaries talking about what really happened. We're printing the zine and everything about Ben Richards. Richards lives. We're bringing down the system. We're bringing down the tower and of the network, and yeah, we're bringing change, I guess, in the world. But the way all of that is executed, it's so, I don't know. It feels sloppy and annoying,
It's very heavy-handed, very, very sort
very
of
heavy-handed, and
on the
this
nose.
the slow motion, Ben Richards walking through the smoke and going to shoot Josh Brolin, which also felt weird that he was going to kill him. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I mean, he said all those things, very angry guy, but even throughout the film, he's not actively seeking to fight. He's the running man. He's running around,
He's not the fighting
but
man.
then he's not a fighting man, and they even show him like have mercy of one of the hunters, and that comes back to bite him afterwards.
And actually, that becomes also a twist that I didn't like. Oh, he's the guy who won the first whatever. The guy Macone
Yeah,
has an actual like a backstory in the film, which I like. Just leave him be. Just leave the character be.
it's the cycle of violence. Like it's something that's like you're saying it. He's like, yeah, sure, it can be the cycle of violence and how they're one and the same. And it's like, okay, what should I care?
This is
Okay, I
copium.
guess.
Uh,
Sure. Yeah. Lee Pace, poor guy, wasted, wasted. I love Lee Pace. I think he's great. He's very underrated. And to having covered up, I think it's cool. I mean, I like the design of the character.
mm-hmm.
I like that they're more present. But yeah, it was a very underwhelming ending. And of course, the family is alive. Of course, the family is alive. It has to have that cookie cutter, colorful ending because people need to leave the cinema feeling good about themselves and their lives. And I did not like it in a way.
Like once
Um,
they like when they well, I suppose this is interesting and still kind of coming from, let's just say, faithfulness to the book, when they interesting introduce the idea of when he mails these tapes using portable flying mailboxes, which is just like when they decide, by the way,
which I
that
guess they're only for the Running Man show,
I suppose, right, because they just fly away with this. So I okay,
which
so
doesn't help in keeping them hidden if it's exclusive. Like anyone can just
yeah.
monitor them and find
No,
out
just
where
like
they are.
if you're like a bystander or whatever, just like just look at, oh, this guy just mailed something. I bet he's the running man. Yeah. Because everyone sends emails these days, and just like how hard would it be to have his smartwatch send emails?
Yeah.
But anyway, what do I know?
And
But
I
what
like that, to be honest. I'll say very quickly, I do like that they try to maintain the time setting of the book. Like it feels like an 80s vision of the future, and I kind of like that.
I suppose, yeah, that's fair enough. I well, what I find intriguing and is that when they still keep the idea of when he sends messages and they become political, they mess with these messages. So there's this sort of the I guess in the 1987 film, it's kind of there as well when he says "to hell with you," and they just like you see the non-edited footage from the helicopters essentially watching the Running Man, but recut.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love when they just show, roll the footage and you just watch the film. You're just watching.
They just had high quality cameras on the
Yeah,
helicopter.
everyone
Okay.
had cameras, like when, and they also decided that like the in the 1987 film when they were knocking out Arnold, that they were also like just punching the camera. So after he went ow, ow, but what I liked was the idea of
Amazing.
them messing with what's real and what isn't, so that actually this allows Killian to say like, "Oh, we killed your family" or whatever, and then and you immediately don't trust it because you don't know, because they were so good at faking it. Like it's not like when like you see like Glenn Powell's mouth doing one thing and there's a sound doing something else. No, they just AI'd this whole thing, which is, I suppose, this makes. I think that the attempt is to sort of make some kind of a, let's just say, timely commentary that I suppose fits to our time where we're still kind of distracted with content, and hopefully with I suppose like with mainstream media still trying to position themselves in a place of importance. um, but we can't trust anything and any single image coming to our ears and eyes, right? Because everything could be
Hmm.
faked, could be manipulated, and you won't know. And there's still people who take their news from Facebook, like Amelia Williams's character in this film. She's just totally brainwashed, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
so I like that, but at the same time, and I think they do turn him into this symbol, but I feel they don't have, they don't have the sort of the courage to just make it edgy, make it edgelord. And this movie needs to be a bit more edgelordy, and I think they try to make fun of themselves too much, right? They're just saying, "Oh, by the way, we don't believe any of this," and like wink, wink. We're not trying to be super serious because they want to appeal to Gen Z and Gen Z crowd who are, let's just say, more allergic to that kind of storytelling, you know. Meanwhile, like millennials like
Earnest
myself, we ate
storytelling.
we just ate up like The Matrix, which was the edgelordiest movie of its time, right?
Oh
And
yeah, The Matrix is losing points. I've seen it in the cinema with a youngish crowd,
hmm
and they were talking poorly about some parts. Ah, it's very cheesy. It hasn't aged that well in some parts. Like they were laughing at moments of earnestness where they're talking about love and the revolution and fighting for what you believe in. It's like you're laughing at this.
like the kind of
Uh,
earnest sort of like earnest attempt at saying at trying to do something like this, like some just take something seriously, like taking an action film seriously will come across as edgelordy, or as the kids would say now, cringe.
mhm.
So, and I think they're trying to avoid being cringe, so they're like but you can't, so it's like an unwinnable battle because they immediately look like a Steve Buscemi with his baseball cap backwards, like Edgar Wright just saying like, "How are you doing, fellow teenagers?" So it's you're still looking fake. And and this movie
Yes.
actually is like my sort of like the sort of 7-word review would be, this is a fake movie. This actually doesn't look like a real film. It looks like a um like, I don't know. And yeah, I think when you said this is Ghost directed by David Leitch, yes, this has it's almost like a film that doesn't exist. It's If this was
It's the
generated
fake
by
movie
AI,
that
I wouldn't be
people go
surprised.
watch in other movies. When they're like, we're going to the cinema to watch a film. And it's like, this is what's playing in the background. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, The Running Man. Sure.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So
I think it's, yeah, there's many problems. I do think Glenn Powell is miscast. I like him good enough. Generally, I don't have anything against him. I'm not one of those like turned on him on a dime. I think he's very charismatic. Here
who would you
it
like to see him
doesn't. Here he
instead?
was an I don't know, honestly. I mean, probably would have been not as like if it wouldn't have drawn a crowd. Not that this movie's drawing a crowd, from what we've seen.
Actually, Lee
But
Pace would have been a better choice for him.
I mean, yes, yes, he's right there. But even Carl Glusman, who plays the one of the psychotic hunters,
Yep.
I think if he looks like a regular guy who has the physique to like pull off the action if he wanted. He's versatile. We've seen him in other movies, from Love to Nocturnal Animals and others. Like he's been acting for over a decade at this point. Um, like there's other actors. I
One of the
Glenn Powell
Skarsgårds.
is a committee decision.
Yeah.
Glenn Powell is the flavor of the month. That's why they get him.
Yep. Yep.
He's not. They really want to make him a movie star. He's like the disciple of Tom Cruise, and he's taking him under his wing. But they're forcing it too much. It's not genuine. I think someone like Timothée Chalamet is becoming is a genuine star. He has the charisma. He's doing the right choices, and he's making them work. Glenn Powell, they're forcing him, and I don't think that's gonna pay off in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it in here. Like it's like, yeah, sure, because the rest of the cast is good. I especially really like, which is a shame that she's barely in the movie, but like Katie O'Brien, who plays Laughlin, one of the other two runners,
Mm-hmm.
is
Yeah, someone I
participating.
know he's
Like she's
retired.
just letting loose.
Like I know he's retired somehow because he had a really just massive life changing accident. But someone like Jeremy Renner would have been a better fit in here.
I
Although
mean, yeah,
he's a bit
young
older.
when he was younger,
When he
maybe.
was like Jeremy, like Born Legacy Jeremy Renner is Ben Richards for me. That kind of
Yeah, yeah. Like regular looking, but fit enough. He can pull off the
yeah,
action.
and he
Yeah.
kind of looks like he has some, like he's something behind his fingernails. There's not he's not like because like Glenn Powell is just like I can't stay mad at you, Glenn.
He's
He's too
always
likable.
grinning.
Like when he says
Yeah,
like I'm
yeah,
still
yeah.
alive, you shit eaters, and I can't take him seriously.
Yeah. He's running around the hotel in a towel. That
Yeah.
whole thing was, again, tones at odds. It's trying to set up the realistic, it, which is a shame because, like, reading the book, even the book has more moments of effective drama and anger and frustration than the movie does. There is one sequence, especially early on, that's Richards has barely any time to get in touch with the family before he has to leave,
Mm-hmm.
and is like basically battling to get the wife on the phone just to tell her goodbye and everything she needs to know, and she
Because
has
there's
like
a
30
phone in
minutes
the
1
corridor or
minute
something
for the
like this, right?
seconds was, yeah. It's like, it's a tense moment of drama. You can feel what the character is going through. Instead, here you get the classic cliche, the very sad call. I love you. Do this, do that. Oh, blah blah blah. It's like,
Keep the
yes,
sock for
yes.
luck.
Keep the sock for luck. Yes,
Yep.
like sure. Like all those little pieces. I don't know. It just didn't. It didn't feel right
Yeah. And
in
also for
both.
how
I mean, in the literal way and the, yeah,
for like how fast paced the book is. It actually because it is quite fast paced, as in like a lot of it a lot happens in it.
yeah,
The actual set pieces that you are converted in here into action set pieces are not really action set pieces. They're sort of sequences of prolonged sustained suspense, like the the escape from the YMCA sort of hotel in the book is essentially an exercise in trying to evade by stealth. There's no actions, there's no running. He's just trying to he he thinks that he's been spotted and he runs away without anyone seeing him. That's it. Or whenever he goes into the standoff in the car, it's essentially just like I have my hand on the whatever trigger, the big Irish and whatever, and it's not a big sort of action set piece. It's just a prolonged sort of con, and that's it. Like there is very little, in like there is very little in terms of like actual running in the Running Man book. You know,
yeah.
like when he just
But I mean, I
flies
think
into the
the
river. I don't know.
yeah, the film. I mean, I get the film needs to be more exciting, more engaging. It is also like a 2025 blockbuster, so it has to have some of those elements, which I'm fine with. I just wish they were better. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know your opinion of Baby Driver. I've not seen it since like 2018, I want to say. But Baby Driver is really well made. Like it has really good camera work, really good editing, the pacing, the shot composition. It's like, yeah, this looks good. I don't know what happened because I want to say this is the same cinematographer as Last Night in Soho as well.
Mm-hmm.
Chung Chan Hoon. Yeah, 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 yeah. Who also did the original Old Boy, worked a bunch in Korea and stuff. I don't think he really works well with Wright
Mm.
because he's
You may
done
be
great
right.
films. I mean, he shot Heretic as well. He shot Handmaiden, Stalker, Thirst, like a bunch of Parks and Wooks films. But he also shot Uncharted,
Yeah, that
Wonka,
tracks.
Zombieland Double Tap.
That
And it's like,
tracks.
good for him. Good for him. Like, he can make a gorgeous artistic film,
But it kind
and
of
then he
speaks to the
can make the most
choices.
boring. But,
Like
but
it
like,
speaks
because
to the choices of like when directors think about who they're gonna hire as their crew, and they think, oh, what's on their portfolio. That kind of speaks to what they may be after. Like this movie has a lot in common with Zombieland. And it's like there will be a moment where like it's just they're trying to undermine themselves with comedy at all cost, and
mm-hmm.
with the sort of quick editing rule number 77, never never bury your friend after dark or whatever, you know.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Rule 1, cardio or whatever, right? And you know, like I haven't rewatched Baby Driver in a while, and although you know it's very difficult to watch these Christopher Plummer movies these days, but you know, um, um, if you know what I mean.
Shot by Bill Pope, by the way. Not
Yeah.
Christopher Plummer, but like Baby Driver was shot by Bill Pope,
But
who's a
I really loved the
master.
Baby Driver when I saw it in the cinema. It was an experience, and one of the reasons why this was it was shot and edited to the beat of music, right? It was
Yes. Yes.
all the sort of crashes, whatever in moment like music was essentially diegetic in the soundtrack was diegetic in many ways, and people were jumping or whatever, running. They were running to the beat of music, and what I wanted to say when I was looking forward to The Running Man by Edgar Wright, the trailer had that. There's a sequence in the when he's running
I
away
haven't
in
seen the
the
trailer actually.
so there's a so watch the trailer where they there's this sequence where he escapes to the elevator, and then he has I have a grenade, whatever. But there's a moment where he escapes and he's being shot, and they shoot and they edited the beats in the soundtrack to the trailer to actually look like Baby Driver, so that you have the beats and music to be kind of unison with or in to the beat of the shots, right?
Yeah,
Which
that
kind
sounds
of makes you
nice.
feel like, oh, that would be nice, and that's actually an interesting sort of like exercise in style. But
Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't go for it in here like at all.
I think honestly, I was reading it up today, and he was talking about it with pride, and I'm very happy for him. But Edgar Wright was talking
He's
about,
under contract to say this.
yeah, maybe. But like Edgar Wright was saying how this is the fastest he's ever gotten into a production of a film. It's
Wow.
like you can tell it took barely a year from the moment they were like, okay, we're gonna make this with these people to like releasing it. It was
This is
barely
a
a
quick
year.
turnaround.
It's a quick turnaround. And when you hear him talk about the other movies, even something like Last Night in Soho, which is, in my opinion, lesser right, it's still okay. I like it, I have problems with it. But, it has moments where you can feel it's an Edgar Wright film. There's the dance where they're constantly switching places in camera. There's the long takes, and there's the darkness and the way he plays with colors and the
And the
music. It's like,
mirrors.
oh yeah, I swear to you,
Yeah.
outside of the closing credits, I can't remember a single song in this film that like hit me, that stuck with me.
No,
There's not a single
exactly
moment there
same.
was
Same.
like, this is nice. Oh yeah, this sounds nice. Like, no, never happened.
Mm-mm. No, and that has always been like the signature. There will be a song, at least one,
At least.
that he would really draw attention to, right? And this does not exist in here at all. I think, and if it does, it doesn't register, right? like it almost feels like, like out of all his films, like the most forgettable one is, I think, Scott Pilgrim, in my opinion, and that
Oh,
kind
I
of
like Scott
is.
Pilgrim actually.
Yeah, but in terms of like how it registers, as in like how faux it feels, I think this is kind of sort of very like on the spectrum of Edgar Wright's films. I suppose The Running Man kind of sits closely to something like Scott Pilgrim, as in like it's almost like they're too afraid of making it look real, so they kind of just find sort of the false sense of security behind the source material, which happens to be a graphic novel. But in here,
Hmm.
they kind of fall back on what was in the book, so we stick to the book. So if it's ridiculous, it's in the book. But we're trying to make so, but we know it's ridiculous. So as we're making it, we're gonna make sure that everyone knows that we find it ridiculous too. So wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know, we're laughing with you. So if you find it cringe, we know it's cringe. So we're cool. And but you're like, no, you're 50. So,
Yep, yep. It's unfortunate, but yeah, I don't know what went wrong. Probably it was just a rush production, and that's it. He didn't have the time to think properly about it, storyboard it properly, like find his own soul in the project. Um, because it pained me. Like this is my first time I went to a cinema, and they actually had a survey after the film. I don't know why. Maybe because it was opening weekend. I don't know. But there was a guy with tablets.
and there was
It was like,
just
hey,
you coming out of the cinema.
me and three people. He had like a longer stack of tablets than people that actually attended the screening. Hey, do you want to review the film? I was like, okay. He was like, how did you like the running man? I was like, oh
Not
no.
very
How
much.
much would you recommend it to friends from 1 to 10? I was like, three, I guess.
Jesus.
And it's not like I did it with passion. It's not like I was gleefully hating on the film. I did not want to hate it. I actually wanted to feel differently. But even going into it, I did not have the anticipation I had for Edgar Wright in the past. I think I'm
Hmm.
just, I don't know, either the project smelled weird, just going into it, it's like, I don't know about this. Um, but yeah, which is a shame because I do think the book is very, very good. I think the book has things to say,
Hmm. It
but
actually has
honestly,
things to
and I
say that
think
are kind of relevant now.
that are relevant now, and the way they talk about them in the film turns them trivial.
Hmm.
Especially in the same year where we've had like one battle after another, and like other movies that are talking about similar things in much more clever and entertaining ways.
Hmm.
My final thoughts are shockingly like, don't watch this film, just read the book. The book is a good read. Just read the book and skip this film. And honestly, just watch the Arnold version if
Just
you
if you want some
crave it for some
cheese, this
reason.
is some real cheese. Not this thing. This cheese-like product is what it is. Uh,
I swear to you, I never thought I would have left the screening thinking I preferred the Arnold version. But at least I had fun in the Arnold version.
this
At
is
least it
not a
had a
sentence that you utter
personality. It had
lightly.
Arnold's personality.
Yeah,
It was Arnold's, but it was still something. I
it's
felt
still a
emotions.
personality, right? Although I would
I
say that
wasn't
this.
groaning
Did
during
you
the
notice,
film.
by the way, that this Edgar Wright is also trying to like acknowledge the existence of the 1987 film, like the dancers. They look like the sort of dancers in the 87 film. Um,
The
the
multiple close-ups of the $100 bill with Arnold on it.
yeah, 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 and then the idea of like coming back to Kill Killian, that's also kind of like taken out of the film. There's some elements very, and yeah, like the biggest one is sort of the Arnold on the on the dollar on the dollar bill or $100
Which the way they
bill.
were talking about it, they were like, "It's an Easter egg. It's a production." It's like, no, it's the close-ups are so long. It's impossible to not see it.
See,
It's
this
not
is
an
the element
Easter
of
egg.
like we're making fun of this. You just know that if you don't do it and call it new dollars or whatever, that's fine. But you kind of keep it real, as in like let's just keep imagining this. But you do it like this, then you turn the entire experience into a joke, and it's fine. Turn it into a parody. I'm fine with that. Turn the Running Man, the Batman book, into a parody, and it will still probably be worthwhile because you can hide satire within a parody and it will still work. But you have to do something with the characterizations and the dramatic progression of the character who's genuinely angry. and he has a
Hmm.
genuine arc where he transmorphs from this sort of guy who's going to his certain death, and he only wants to last for enough for his kids to survive, to becoming a symbol, and then to becoming a martyr, right? You have to do something about him. You have to kind of fit him into this parody, but they kind of left him like that. Like this sort of angry Ben Richards from the book, and then just like turned everything else into a parody. So it's kind of, yeah. And actually, as I was speaking, I quickly googled this. You know, like why we don't like this may have something to do with just what blockbusters have become. And then one of the sort of names on the production team who probably has had a lot of say would be Simon Kinberg, who's like
Hmm.
who's on the ticket for, I want to say, half of the biggest superhero films you've seen. Like he directed
Oh, the
Dark
X-Men's,
Phoenix. He
yeah.
was like on all of the sort of X-Men films, on Deadpool's and whatever. This has Deadpool written all over it. Like in terms of how edgy it is, but it's trying to be like at arm's length from itself, from its edginess.
Like all the Deadpools, but like not in a good way Deadpool. Because the first
Like there's
Deadpool
only
was
one
like
way
the
Deadpool as
first
far as
Deadpool
I'm
was better.
concerned, and it's not a good way.
I like the first Deadpool. I think the first two are okay. They're not that bad.
But yeah.
Um, that's a shame. That's a crying shame. I
Yeah,
mean,
he was an
I would ask you
executive
then.
producer on Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, 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 of
So
course, of course. So to kind of like start closing things off, what would you say is your favorite version? Even though I kind of know the answer already, probably, but what's your favorite version of the Running Man?
look, the book is my favorite version of the Running Man, the story, but I like the Arnold film. It's a bad movie that I like, and I don't mind and I don't mind watching it like annually, just for the lols, because it's fun and so
Brings
easy.
comfort and joy.
Yeah, but this, yeah, the new one is one that I will probably most certainly forget almost immediately. I'm so happy we're doing it so fresh.
Yeah,
From
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the-
No, no, no. I would not have wanted to drag this much longer. Um, and honestly, like, I was reading some of the very positive reviews about this film. Um, they read slightly delusional in a way. Like, it reminds me, it's a worse case of when Last Night in Soho came out, and that was
Opium.
part of the problem back then, to be honest. But it's like you want to like it because you want to support Edgar Wright. Like, he's likable, he's charming, he loves cinema, so you want to love him as well in what he makes. But then it's hard to justify, and with this one especially, I really have nothing to say about it.
I'm just now quickly looking at the most popular reviews on Letterboxd. I want to see.
For The Running Man.
Yeah. Although, like these days, there will be like fan bases formed around Glenn Powell or and Edgar Wright, and that's enough to kind of carry a movie, right? Like I've watched just recently Predator Badlands, which just you can't spare Predator Badlands without saying bad, you know. And like like you look at how people responded to it, and it's just fanboying copium. It's what it is. Just people just, oh, you're explaining this too much. Like, okay, just admit it that you like a bad movie. I love plenty of bad movies, but you know,
Like, it's been a surprisingly weak year
the
for
most
mainstream
popular
action.
review on Letterboxd of the Running Man is the long walk walked so the running man could run. Nearly 5,000 likes. This is ridiculous.
Heck yeah. Heck
This is
yeah.
ridiculous.
You should
Four
get it the
stars.
pun game. You have to be the first person to make an obvious joke.
Like quickly rewatch Dunkirk and call it Slam Dunkirk.
See the numbers go up.
Or do I? Yeah. Do I need to even rewatch it? Can I just like post it and just pretend I did?
Probably.
I would have
But
zero
post it close to the
self-respect.
release of the Odyssey as people are rewatching all of Christopher Nolan's films. Um, yeah, honestly, like I completely agree. Yeah. Save the book, read the book, go through it. It's worth a read. I like how mean it is. I like how pessimistic it is in some ways, and I like how angry it is throughout.
Mm-hmm.
The new film, skip, hard skip. I mean, if you've listened to this point, you probably might have already seen it, so I'm sorry about that. But
Someone's
I might
fuming
give
like
it
when I
another
listen to
chance in the
this.
future, just to see, maybe a year's time I'll rewatch it and think, let's see how it plays at home. Also because the sound mixing in my cinema was really bad. It was really, really bad, which didn't make the experience any more pleasant, to be honest. So yeah, how about something good though, Jakub? How about
Hmm.
your favorite quote, your favorite passage
I've got a
from
quote
the
and a
book?
passage. If you want,
About both.
do you want both?
It can be a
Okay,
passage with a quote.
I've got no. They're two different things. One's hold on. Oh, just where I lost it. um, where is it? Jesus Christ. Oh yeah. He understood well enough how a man with a choice between pride and responsibility will almost always choose pride if responsibility robs him of his manhood. That's kind of like a description of Ben Richards. Um, but what I really like is the sort of it's kind of in between chapters. When he finds out, like it kind of just tells you how cinematic Stephen King's writing is. So I just thought I would just bring it as an example. So when he says like Richards tried to speak, cause hold on, so he's speaking to Killian on the plane, right? And he says Richard tried to speak, could say nothing. The dread was still in him, widening, heightening, thickening. There's never been a chief hunter with a family, he finally said. You ought to know why. The possibilities for extortion. Ben, Killian said with infinite gentleness, your wife and daughter are dead. They've been dead for over 10 days. And that's a chapter break. And he says, and this is kind of when you kind of just almost live in the sort of Kopfkino, in the sort of
Mm-hmm.
cinema of your mind, right? Dan Killian was talking, had perhaps for some time, but Richards heard it only distantly, distorted by an odd echo effect in his mind. It was like being trapped in a very deep well and hearing someone call down. His mind had gone midnight dark, and the darkness served as the background for a kind of scrapbook slideshow. An old Kodak or Sheila wiggling in the halls of Trades High, with a loose leaf binder under her arm. You can almost see just how like you read this and you see this scene in a film, how you almost feel like it's the Saving Private Ryan. You just nothing registers. You just can't process what you just learned.
Which they kind of do.
They kind of do, but you read this and it's incredibly more powerful because
It's
they
different,
do it
yeah.
in the film, but the assumption is already that you don't believe it because it could be faked because they showed you how they faked
Yeah.
everything, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I have for you. And if you want a scene from the film, I can give you one from the film, which is like I always loved Captain Freedom. Anything with Captain Freedom.
You're a Ventura boy.
Oh Jesus, Captain
Oh.
Freedom! Like Ventura is such a comedic presence.
Underrated.
And,
Underrated.
yeah.
I do like I don't remember the actor's name, but I do like the Dynamo
Dynamo.
character.
Oh, he's an actual. I think he's an actual opera singer.
Opera singer, yeah, 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 yeah. Just like
But
having
yeah,
sing opera and shoot lightning out of his hands.
and
Sure, why not? He's
and the
also like
scene.
like in the King version, he's also someone who gets spared and then comes back and gets his comeuppance.
Yeah. So it's
I just
in
thought
and
about it.
also in the 1987 film, the boss saw scenes like this saw is part of me. I'm gonna make it a part of you, and that's just like one of the one-liners that kind of feels natural. That's all right. Keep it. Just and then when he starts sewing him, he just hits a falsetto as well. It's just so
Cutting
stupid.
him in half, you know. He had to split.
Yeah, had to
Oh man.
split.
Oh.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I kind of share one of my favorite scenes. I do like the ones with Dynamo in the original. In the new one, I guess I kind of started to get some fun, some semblance of fun in the Michael Cera sequence when they go full Home Alone. But then again, it's so sloppy. Just like the rhythm of it, the pacing. The cops are shooting through the door and then they stop
Hmm.
being trigger happy. Sure, why not? But in terms of quote, I have a passage that's also from the plane. It's when Richards is talking with McCone,
Hmm.
and this goes like this: "You're crazy," McCone said. "They'll blow us apart. With you and 5 other innocent people on board, this honorable country, It will be a mistake, Cohn said harshly. A mistake on purpose. Don't you watch the National Report? Richard asked, still smiling. We don't make mistakes. We haven't made a mistake since 1950. And it was this whole passage that just made me think about the way King is talking about the United States government. It's like not making mistakes, not, reshaping history and telling people lies of how great the country is, how perfect it is, how everything is just shiny
Yep.
and golden, and yeah, just lying to them blatantly, and how the people inside this system are aware of that. And they are afraid of the actual consequences that will happen for certain actions. It's just one of those passages. Of all the passages, one of that just like stuck with me. I had to write it down. And yeah, good book, man.
Yeah.
Really, really good book.
Good back, man. Sorry.
Good back, man. And I'm glad we had this conversation to celebrate it and kind of, complain together one last time before we can completely forget the Edgar Wright film. But thank you
Yeah.
so much, Jakub, for joining me on this conversation. Where can our listeners find your writing and your voice?
Right, okay, so I'm gonna plug this. So I'm mostly found on flashonfilm.com, FLASZ on film.com. This is where I write, and I try to write a bit more prolifically these days because I have more time on my hands. So this is where I write reviews, review adjacent sort of articles, I don't know, whatever comes to my mind and just turns into 1,000 words. This is where you find it. So that's my personal sort of um just platform for self-expression in on the sort of medium of culture and film. Because I like, you know what? I don't believe now in like pitching to outlets. Fuck them. Just do it myself. If someone reads it, great. If not,
You build your own audience.
yeah, I'm an entrepreneur that way. And then also, I run a podcast called Uncut Gems Podcast, where you can find it on all the sort of major podcasting platforms, if you please. If you want to find us on we have a website, uncutgems.podcast.com, and a Patreon account where there's extra shows. Because on the show, we talk about a bit more just off the beaten track films, but kind of sort of still recognizable, or movies that I saw this years ago and I don't remember anything about it. That's what we talk about. So in November, I suppose, where we're recording this, we're talking about all the noir films that John Dahl directed. Who exactly? Red Rock West. you know?
There you go.
Uh,
There you
and
go.
then coming towards in December, we'll be talking about all directorial efforts of Ben Affleck, for instance, right? So cool stuff. So you can go and listen to me and Randy and a bunch of guests and friends. And Nicolo, you find yourself now every now and again on the show, even though like there were
Yes.
times when you were officially co-hosting this with me. That was a
It
good
was a year and a half, man.
year and a
Yeah.
half, I think.
Good
Yeah,
times.
before you chose filmmaking as a serious career, and then things happen. But yeah, Uncut Gems podcast is where I speak, and flashonfilm.com is where I write, and that's kind of how I exist. And social media wise, I think Jakub Flash on Letterboxd and Blue Sky. This is kind of where I reside as a person, although I'm not necessarily very active on Blue Sky because I don't
I
know how
don't
to
think
play the
anyone
social
is, to
media
be
game.
honest. I think we've all lost touch with social media thanks to the Exodus.
The
It's like
Exodus.
the Exodus. I didn't even want to say it on purpose, it just came out like that. But yeah, all of those links will be found in the show notes below for ease of access. And of course, you can follow me everywhere at NikiGrind97, and you can follow the show on Instagram at Anatomy of Adaptation Pod. Stay tuned because we're going to have the last episode of the year before a small, short, well-deserved winter break. I will be joined by the good Raphael Felix to close the circle and talk about Cormac McCarthy's The Road. So stay tuned for that. We hope to see you soon, and we hope you have a lovely, lovely day. Goodbye.